Officials say about 25 people have been killed. Again, at least 10 others injured in that church shooting. This happened in Sutherland Springs this afternoon at First Baptist Church. Officials say a man walked into the church and started firing. The wife of the church's pastor says their 14-year-old daughter was among those killed. She says she and her husband were out of town at the time of the shooting. Officials say the gunman has also been killed. No motive has been given yet.
My heart is broken on this. I mean, we never think where it can happen, and it does happen. It doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, in a small community, real quiet and everything, and look at this, what can happen. So, I mean, it's sad. It's really sad. It breaks my heart.
Reaction continues to pour in nationwide to the news of today's mass shooting. President Donald Trump tweeted, "May God be with the people of Sutherland Springs, Texas. The FBI and law enforcement are on the scene. I'm monitoring the situation from Japan." Former Governor Nikki Haley writes that she's praying for the families of Sutherland Springs. A church is the most sacred of places. No words. We're continuing to follow this story as new details develop. Be the first to get the latest updates on your phone by downloading our free WIS News 10 app. Here at home, Richland County deputies are investigating after an infant was found dead this morning. Deputies say this happened at a home on Raynor Court around 8 this morning. This is new video of the scene. Officials have labeled the death as suspicious because the cause of death is unknown at this time. Officials say they'll know more after an autopsy tomorrow. Police are investigating an overnight crash that led to life-threatening injuries for 3 passengers inside the car. And police say that when they arrived on the scene, they found out the vehicle had been stolen out of Richland County. This all happened around 1 a.m. For the latest, we go live to our Caroline Patricus. She's in the newsroom with the timeline of events. Caroline?
Well, Emily, you can still see evidence of that crash on Middleton Street in Columbia, and police are now trying to figure out if the 4 passengers who were inside of that SUV stole the car. But what we do know is that that Ford Expedition was actually stolen out of Richland County. Officers responded to that crash at 1:30 this morning, and a preliminary investigation shows that the 22-year-old female driver was speeding down Middleton Street when she drove off the side of the road, overcorrected, and ran off the right side of the roadway. The vehicle went airborne and rolled several times, and the driver was ejected from the vehicle and the passengers with her. There were actually 3 other passengers. They are suffering serious injuries. We will continue to follow this and bring you more details as soon as we learn them. For now, live in the newsroom, Caroline Patricus, WIS News 10.
All right, the First Alert weather team is tracking about 3 days of rain expected into next week. We're going to have at least 3 opportunities where you could get wet. I know it's an inconvenience for you, but we desperately need the rain around here. Rain chances will start to move in late Tuesday. Stick with us right on through Wednesday and Thursday. Widespread areas of rain expected. Not a whole lot in the way of thunderstorm activity, but you can't totally rule them out. So we're going to keep our ears open just because it's been so incredibly warm around here. Also want to remind you, hey, we know the time has changed. Sunset already happened at 5:28, and then the sunrise tomorrow morning will be at 6:48 in the morning. Stepping outside this evening, no problems. It's dry, it's comfortable, and mainly clear out there. We were at 68 degrees just a few minutes ago in Columbia, earlier 72, 64 now in Sumter. 70 was your high temperature for today. We reached 75 today over in Camden and 73 in Orangeburg, with Newberry lagging behind just a bit with a high of just 64. Of course, I'll have an update on your First Alert 7-day forecast coming up in just a bit, where we'll talk a little more about those rain opportunities and a big change in the temperature department as well. Emily?
Thanks, Vaughn. New at 6, records show 3 employees of Greenville County spent more than $1,400 for a trip to Charlotte back in March, a trip that the Greenville County Sheriff, now accused of sexual assault, organized. Local reports say the money went to lodging and valet parking by Greenville County's administrator, his deputy, and an assistant. Sheriff Will Lewis has refused to give over names and travel records of his employees who were also on that trip. Lewis is facing a lawsuit of sexual assault from a former employee while the 2 were staying at a Charlotte hotel during a business trip in March. Lewis says it was a consensual encounter. A South Carolina senator has been arrested for driving under the influence and providing false information to police. Senator Paul Campbell was arrested last night after troopers say he was involved in a two-vehicle collision on I-26 in Berkeley County. Campbell represents portions of Berkeley, Charleston, and Dorchester counties. Troopers say Campbell hit another vehicle from behind in congested traffic. His blood alcohol content was registered at 0.09, above the legal drinking limit of 0.08. He's been issued bond for both charges. In tonight's White House Watch, NBC News has learned that federal investigators have gathered enough evidence to bring charges in the investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and his son as part of the probe into Russia's interference in the 2016 election. And there's also news tonight about a current cabinet member with business ties to Vladimir Putin's family. NBC's Jennifer Johnson reports.
Multiple sources are telling NBC News that federal investigators have enough evidence to bring charges in the investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and Flynn's son as part of the Russian election probe. Special counsel Robert Mueller is reportedly applying pressure on General Flynn after the indictment of Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort.
In this scenario, I could imagine Michael Flynn saying, I don't care what happens to me, but I do care very much what happens to my son, so I would like you to apply credit for my cooperation to my son and keep him out of prison.
The National Security Advisor was fired after just 24 days, one of the first to come under scrutiny in the investigation of possible collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign.
This is serious business. These people are undermining our democracy, and it appears to me that what Bob Mueller is investigating is whether the President of the United States engaged with a foreign power in order to get where he got.
As the president continues his 11-day Asian tour, his defenders say there's a reason Flynn was fired.
This gets back to what President Trump has promised all the way during the campaign about pushing back and keeping everything away with special interests and lobbyists that has any appearance of a conflict of interest.
It's also being revealed that current Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross shares business interests with Vladimir Putin's immediate family, something he failed to clearly disclose before taking the cabinet position. Jennifer Johnson, NBC News, Washington.
Republican Senator Rand Paul is recovering from what a senior advisor says is 5 broken ribs after a neighbor allegedly assaulted Paul at his Kentucky home Friday afternoon. Police say 59-year-old Renee Boucher intentionally assaulted Paul. The senator was not transported to the hospital. Boucher was arrested and charged with 1 count of assault. The FBI is leading the investigation and believe the attack was politically motivated. Honoring our heroes today, community members in Lexington County said thank you to our nation's veterans. More on today's Veterans Day parade ahead in the Palmetto weekend. Another warm but clear night ahead for the Midlands, but we're tracking big changes to the weather that you'll need to be prepared for. More details on a rainy first alert forecast after the break. And we continue to follow the latest developments out of Texas this evening, where officials say more than 20 people have died and at least 20 more have been injured in a mass shooting at a Texas church. We're expecting an update to that shooting and a press conference scheduled to start at any minute. We'll bring you the latest on air and online as we learn more.